final pattern piece for your Baker Boy cap will be your peak. Now, to get the width of the peak, you need to just run your tape measure across your forehead and just above your ear to the other side. It comes to around about 28 centimetres. So what I want to do is I'm just going to trace around the outside, starting from that point there and going around my circle, because there you go, that's 28 centimetres to about there. So that's how wide I want my peak piece to be. So I'm just going to trace around that line. And that will be the inside curve of our peak. Now, if we were in the millinery room, we could actually do this using a block, but we don't have that, just in case you don't have that access. And certainly if you're at home, then you can do this anytime you like. Now, I'm just getting a jar of mustard pickles to go over there, just so it doesn't slide about. And then I'm going to run my pencil all around here. And you can see I'm making a wide open curve, and I'm getting that from my basic pattern. Now, the next thing I need to do, just do a little mark there. The next thing I need to do, I wonder what that is, possibly raspberry jam, but possibly something else, doesn't matter. Anyway, the next thing I'm going to do is just drop that so that it's folded in exactly half, because we want this to be symmetrical. Now, my peak, I think I want it to stick out by about, we use the 3-finger rule here, around about that far, maybe a tiny, no, I don't want it any bigger, I just want it to shade my eyes. Now, using my wrist as a compass, I'm going to just draw a curve, nice curved line that starts there and goes to there. Do a couple of goes if you want it to be just right. And I'm going to flip it over and trace it out on the other side. That'll give me some sort of symmetry, but we'll do more when we cut it. And I'm just going to open that up. That looks pretty good. Now, I might just bring it in a fraction on that side. Can you see what I've just done? That was too fine. You don't want it to be too thin here, and so I'll trace that later onto the other one. Now, you'll need, actually I made a liar of myself. There's actually, you're going to do one with the seam allowance and you're going to do one without the seam allowance. So taking your pattern paper, that's big enough for the one without the seam allowance. Plonk this on top. And I'll get out of the way. So just go from that curve, mark that off there, mark this off there too, because we're going to fold it in half in a minute. And trace around there. And then we're going to go around here like this. Like that. And just going to get that mark there. So I'm going to put an X there, an X there. I'm going to fold this in half so that those two X's are on top of each other. And then I'm going to cut that out. Now, once you've got that cut out, you can actually try that on in front of the mirror, make it out of a bit of stiffer cardboard if you like. And if you like the shape of it, then we're on track. So you can cut this will be made in your list of materials and equipment. I've asked you to get some flippy plastic. You could actually use an ice cream container lid or a disused folder from your school life, whatever suits. And I'm just going to cut that slightly round. Now, that is the thing that you will cut as the plastic. Now, to do the fabric one, we'll just cut a piece of more pattern paper. Now, I'm going to put a little notch in the top and the bottom. Just be careful with notches on your plastic, because you don't want your notches to be visible on your finished hat, but certainly it'll be handy to have a notch or two there for now. Goodbye mustard pickle. And if I stick this underneath here, I've got a little centre front mark there, centre front mark there. Trace that out accurately. You can make that line just a little bit outside there, because when you're sewing your fabric, you want the pocket that you make out of the fabric just to fit over the top of that piece of plastic. So it can be just a smidgen bigger, but not a big smidgen, just a little one. And that goes there. And then using your trusty ruler, just drop your seam allouts in there. So seam allouts of 1 centimetre here, all the way around. And remember, if you've got your centre front marks matched, you can just do your seam allouts on one side. You don't have to go all the way around then. Now, you can make this seam allowance 1.5, but don't because it's confusing. If you find that you're running out of space though, in future you can, but it's a decision that you would make as you go along. Okay, so here we go. So I've just let you in on a little secret that not all seam allowances are born equal. Okay, now that will just continue down to there. Flip that over, fold it in half, because milliners love symmetry, and we're too lazy to measure like too much. Okay, and then now that's the simplest peak. You can do it in other ways, including using a hat block, and when you have your hat block you can just trace out, sloping broom block, find the centre front, sticky tape some paper down and draw up the shape that you want. That's another good way. You don't get a gold medal for doing it. See that? Beautiful. So I've got a pattern peak piece, and I've got the piece for that will be the flippy plastic. Now normally I would sticky tape or put a bit of glue on the back of this and stick it to some cardboard, just ordinary light cardboard, not the corrugated sort, and then I can just trace around that on the plastic. And I just need to mark this up. So it's the peak piece for the Serena Lindemann Baker Boy. Now this is 3 out of 3. When the grain line goes an X there, make sure that they're at right angles. And what else do we need to say? Cut 2 outer. We don't need to cut lining for this, because it'll be right side fabric on the top and right side fabric on the bottom. This one, ditto, peak, me again. Baker Boy, cut 1 plastic. Now I've said there's only 3 pattern pieces, so I've dug a ditch for myself and jumped in. I'm going to say 3A of 3. How about that? Is that permissible? And no grain line on plastic, so you don't have to worry about that. And when you cut out the plastic, just make sure that you just don't let that get too sharp, because you round those off and then it doesn't poke its way through your fabric.